Hi, I'm Shanti, the artist behind Shanti Fine Arts. This time around the year is the festival season back in India, and we observe Navratri and Durga Puja around this time. It is differently celebrated in different parts of the country. One of the ways it is celebrated in the western part of the country is in form of 9 nights of song and dance called Garba or Dandia. That is the name of the dance form, and to appease the goddess Durga, the goddess of Shakti. And I just tried to catch a glimpse of that dance. It is portrayed in very bright hues and colors. So today's watercolor tutorial is all about that. Let's see the process.
I started off with first going around the body of the figure with masking fluid. What this will do is it will protect my figure from the lot of paint that I'm going to put for the background. So once the masking fluid is 100% dry, then I'm wetting the surrounding area or the background with lots of water. I want that background to be soaking wet. And then I first put a layer of yellow. I want the background to be pretty intensely dark. So there will be lots of dark greens, blues, grays and browns. But if I start with an yellow, that kind of helps in building towards the depth. So as you saw, after the yellow, then I'm bringing in more of browns. So I'm using lots of burnt umber and burnt sienna, or you can use raw umber, sepia, whatever, close to brown tones. So whatever you have available will work. And all of this background I'm working wet into wet. While the background is still wet, I am adding more and more color. And to get the intense dark color, you have to have a lot of pigment. For that, you need to use as little as water possible to the later layers. So the more I am adding layers, the less water I'm adding to the paint and more pigment I'm letting the paint to have, because watercolor will dry a lot lighter. Now you can see the background is done, but it is a lot lighter than I want it to be. So at the very end I'll go back and change the background. Now I blocked the entire body area wherever the skin is showing with a mix of yellow, red, white and a tad bit of blue. And any yellow and red mixed in the right proportion will work for skin tones. That is my general rule for skin tones. And after that, following the reference photo that I've used and following the lights and shadows, I'm adding darker shadows in certain areas. And for that, I'm using a combination of red and yellow, a little bit darker than what I had used for the actual base skin tone. And the more I am going for darker shadows, the more I am adding reds, browns, and even a little bit of blue. For some cool tones in the shadows, I'm using blues in those areas. This face has had a lot of makeup. I did not want to portray all of that, but I still wanted to add a hint of makeup, so you can see that around the eyes and all, it is a little bit more red than it naturally should be. And on one side of the face, I am face and even the other parts of the skin, I'm adding a little bit of green here and there to kind of depict the light source. Because when you have this Navratri festival and dance is generally in a very lit up area, there's often a lot of fancy lights, even disco lights at some places, and it's nighttime, dark and light. So that kind of worked in my imagination, right? So to create that, I did that. So for the hair, I first started with a base tone of blue, black, and a little bit of brown, and then I came back with a darker tone of the same colors. Once again, on one side I'm adding a little bit of green to show the reflection of light. I did quite a bit of detail work in this whole painting for the ornaments, not so much for the ornaments, but definitely for the designs on the outfit that you will see a little bit later. Now on to the dress part. I first blocked the top dress, or like it is more of like a, we call it a dupatta, which is like a veil. and I painted it with a base tone of yellow. This is my favorite yellow. It's called I think golden yellow from Holbein, and I love this for its bright tone. And then I came back with a mix of brown and red for the shadow areas. And to give the hint of little bells or little balls of cotton at the edge of the dupatta or the wheel, I have pulled out some of the colors, and you will see that much better when I put the surrounding colors in the surrounding areas. So it had to be done in a lot of layers. So the base color had to be put in first, then some of it I worked with wet on wet to get a nice blend, and then for the darker sharp shadows I let the area dry and then put in darker shadows. Onto the blouse part, I made it red, combination of red with mixed with a little bit of yellow, because the orange tone will be the base tone, and for the darker areas I added crimson and a little bit of brown and blue to it. So it's kind of like a muddy purple color for the darker tones. Most of it I worked wet on wet, but some of the sharp dark shadows around the edges I have used I have let the paint dry and then worked wet on dry. Onto the skirt, you can see that I'm carefully going around the little cotton balls around the wheel and painting that entire area with a base layer of red. Even for the red, because I wanted it to be a very bright red, I had to do it in multiple layers. The base color I had to work wet on wet and add just a base layer of red, which was very light, but I wanted it very bright to portray the different colors and brightness of the festival and the dance, which is very important for this particular functionality. In India, most of the dances and festivals are made around a lot of colors, and I wanted to depict that in this painting, so I had to go over a lot of layers to get the amount of darkness or the rich depth of colors. For the darker areas, I'm adding a little bit of blue and brown to my base red and getting the darks in place. Till now I'm working wet on wet, but for the final layers I will add some wet on dry as well to get very sharp shadows or very dark colors. And to get very bright and dark colors in watercolors, there are two simple rules. One is that you have to work in layers, start from light and then add a couple more layers and get it dark. And the second thing is that use less water in the subsequent layers. The less water you use, the less diluted the paint gets, the more pigment it will have, and thus the more brighter the color would be. Even for lighter colors or darker colors, if you want bright colors, you need to have a lot of paint and less water in that. So keep that in mind. Layer and add less water in the subsequent layers. That's how you will get nice bright colors in watercolor. I have struggled in getting bright colors with watercolors for a very long time, so I can relate to it if that is a struggle for you as well. But of late I have kind of mastered that. I wouldn't still say that I'm the master of watercolor. I'm much better at all the other mediums I work with than watercolor. Watercolor is a hard medium because it's not very forgiving. It gives you very little scope to go back and correct things. And the more you practice, the better you get, of course. And so I'm continuously practicing and getting better. And as I am learning new tricks in the trade and getting better, I'm sharing the same with you so that our journey continues together and we get to improve our watercolor skills together. Onto the you can see that I'm working on the piece around her waist. This is the only piece in the entire painting that I haven't added too much details. Now onto the very border of the skirt. Again, I am starting with very light yellow, but I am going to build up layers and add more and more layers of darker colors and make a very bright yellow. In fact, some areas I've added a little bit red to the yellow to make it a little orangish to get even brighter colors. And for the shadow areas, the folds, I have added a little bit brown to it to get the darks and lights corrected. The tonal variation is very important to give the element of flowing outfit and the nice colors. Working more on the border. This had to be a lot of detailed work, but I also wanted very dark bright colors, so again, once again, layering to get the brightness as well as working the details. Adding more border, I just wanted to do multicolored, very fancy. I'm following my reference photo pretty closely here. If you look at the reference photo that I had posted in my Facebook work in progresses, and you're free to use that from my Facebook page, because I had the right to use that, so, and I'm sure my friend would not mind if you use her picture as well. So I'm closely following that pattern and try to keep close to that, because I just wanted to focus on the dress and the pattern, because that is a very important part of the festival and the dance and everything. So while I was doing that, I was almost feeling nostalgic about my experiences back in Gujarat in India, where I have seen this dance. I'm not much of a dancer myself, but I love to see other people dance and enjoy, have fun. It's people go out in the middle of the night, till the middle of the night, and have fun for 9 days. That's really fun. And this festival season, Durga Puja and Navratri, is celebrated in different ways in India, and I'm trying to connect with each of those ways. I hope you love this painting and learned a thing or two. Let me know how you feel about this painting in general, and do give me a thumbs up if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe, of course. Thank you for watching.